Good morning. This is a little awkward for us because we are not yet accustomed to virtual meetings. This is my first try, and I'm going to try to make it as realistic as possible. For example, if I say something to which I expect a response, I will pause to give you the opportunity to respond. For example, if I tell a joke, I'll pause and wait for the laughter to subside. If it's a bad joke, please try to at least give me a chuckle or a smile if that's the best you can do. One more thing. I'm going to be talking to you, not reading to you. And if you see me look down frequently, it's because I'm checking my shoelaces. Now let's go back and start again. Good morning. That's better. We're going to be talking about problems this morning. I'd like to take the first 2 minutes to have you think about the problems that most concern you. Choose the 3 that you think are the most serious. Do that right now. I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay, that's enough time. It was about 50 years ago that the doctrine of positive thinking became very popular in discussion circles. The book by that name, The Power of Positive Thinking, sold about 5 million copies and was very influential. It wasn't exactly a new idea at the time. You probably remember a song that was popular for a while. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between. Think back even further to the letter that St. Paul sent to the church at Philippi. If there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think on these things. You may also remember a story that went around about that time about a new manager who went to his boss and said, "Boss, I've got a problem." And for that, he got a lecture, which ended with the words, "In this company, we don't have problems. We have only opportunities." Now, do you want to start again? Well, boss, I've got this here insurmountable opportunity. Newspaper columnists, usually called pundits, have been telling us recently about how the society's problems today are eerily like those of the mid-1960s. We had assassinations back then. Martin Luther King in 1968, Robert Kennedy that same year, and back a little further, President John F. Kennedy. Today, we have George Floyd and a few dozen others like him. Right after that, there was legislation in the Congress designed to lessen discrimination, provide more equal justice, and more equal opportunity, especially to minorities. Those treatments did a lot of good in the 70s, but viewed from where we are today, they seem a lot like Band-Aids that were applied to wounds that were then allowed to fester. Probably that was because the Band-Aids were applied at the federal level, but the wounds were at the personal level. In the 2,200 years since Jesus was sent to Palestine, there have been many periods when current events led to despair. Painful intervals have come and gone, intervals of war, slavery, oppression. They've come and gone, but they have not been absent for very long at any point. Social issues are generally addressed as they are now in a way that is haphazard, uncoordinated, and sometimes divisive. For all these challenges, we citizens of Earth seem to prefer to treat symptoms rather than root causes. Until we get around to treating causes, it will remain true that the poor, the homeless, the hungry will always be with us. We complain about the behavior of the homeless, the petty crime, the addiction, all of which have their roots in poverty. When parents don't know where the next meal is coming from, hunger rises to the top of the problem list with an urgency that makes behavior irrelevant. Given the assurance of food, then homes, sanitation, protection from the elements rise to the top of their priority lists. Until we diminish the need for poverty, until we diminish poverty and provide sanitation, shelter, the basic needs, social misbehavior will plague us to the end of time. God's objective in sending Jesus to Palestine at the time and the place is uncertain in my mind. In some parts of the Christian community, people settle for simply Jesus came to save us. But what was the triggering event? Why was he not sent in the time of Martin Luther, when the Christian community in Europe was coming apart? Why not in 1914 or in 1939, when world wars were imminent? Why not in 1968? Why not now? Issues of social justice at this time, poverty, pandemic, global warming, they are comparable to the scope and the severity of anything in the past 2 millennia. If Jesus were here, what would he do? What would he tell us to do? To bring about on earth the wish that is expressed in the Lord's Prayer on the cover of our bulletin this morning. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And by the way, I have a quarrel with the translation. There should not be a comma between lines 4 and 5. It should read, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Biblical scholars have told us that in the New Testament there are over 300 references to the second coming of our Lord. A cynic might observe that whatever the purpose of the first coming of Jesus, the results must have been less, fallen short of expectations. Well, either his return was oft delayed, or more likely, he has come many times and found that we were not ready to pay attention. Now, given the conditions that we find today, bringing widespread protests to streets of cities all around the globe, one might hope that we are prepared to pay attention to any responsible and charismatic leadership. We are experiencing today adverse conditions that might reasonably be described as insurmountable. And because they are coming together with such severity and getting enough worldwide attention, they might reasonably be described as opportunities. Taken together, they provide the opportunity to bring humanity together for a united attack on the ills of our society. An attack that includes serious and massive acts of courage. The problems on my problem list are the pandemic, global warming, and poverty, by which I include homelessness and hunger and so forth. These three problems have reached a critical level all at the same time, bringing us to a moment when they have the attention of the entire population of the world. Maybe, just maybe, there are enough people paying enough attention to make possible a united, meaningful action to address all of these problems. Maybe, just maybe, this is the time. Fixing these problems will require solutions to arise from the people, for there is no identified central authority with the will to enforce, bring about fair behavior, justice, equal opportunity. A massive determination among the ordinary people like you and me, everywhere, just might turn around the negative trends of recent decades and set us on a straight new course for better times. There are signs now that this is the time when that might be possible. What are we to do? What would Jesus do? We've been told how to live. Must we be told again and again and again? The command that we know as the Golden Rule is common to all worldwide religions in all times and in all places. It comes in slightly different versions, but the words are similar and the message is always the same. Among the 8 versions that I have in hand, there are 2 that I particularly like. One is the Jewish, and that is because it adds to the basic law this statement: that is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. And the Christian, which is the only one on the list, which accentuates the positive. All of the others tell us what to avoid. Our Golden Rule says, do unto others. Our rule is a call to action. What to do? Listen carefully in quiet moments, and God will provide instructions. God is always talking to us, but it's up to us to keep the channels of communication open. Listen, and you will know what to do. Figuratively speaking, open your doors, open your windows, and go check the mailbox, remembering always as you do so, he mea pau ole ke aloha. Love never faileth. Amen.